I really would have a hard time giving you an answer on that, sir.
You're running you're running the office.
I am, yes.
And you're having to make decisions about allocating resources.
Yes, sir.
And you've got investigations to pursue that were ongoing at the time of the administration. And you're having to take agents off of one thing to put them on another. I know how strapped the resources were even before this administration. Yeah. So you may not want to be precise here, but we need some sense of what kind of resources are being diverted here.
Why is Adam Schiff more worried about illegal immigrants than stopping deadly fentanyl from killing Americans? Well-meaning Americans, if you care about our borders, our communities, and the truth behind what's really going on in Washington, you're going to want to stay for this one. Because what I'm about to show you is peak political theater from the Democrats, especially Adam Schiff, and it's a prime example of why this country is in the crisis it's in today. So grab a coffee, buckle up, and let's talk about the absolute nonsense that just went down in a congressional hearing. This is The Prodigy Unfiltered.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, gentlemen, for being here, and thank you for your public service. Greatly appreciate it. I served for almost 6 years in the U.S. Attorney's Office in Los Angeles, worked very closely with the DEA when I did. In fact, worked on bringing to justice one of the people involved in the kidnap, torture, murder of Enrique Camarena. So I was interested to see the video at the outset of this hearing and thrilled when I learned of Cara Quintero's extradition to the United States. Mr. Allen, I want to ask you a couple questions about your work in L.A. I'm grateful for all the efforts to stop the scourge of fentanyl and the smuggling in this country, which has killed so many Americans. My questions go to the fact that I want to see that focus continue, and I don't want these questions to be perceived as a criticism of you. You're following the instructions you're getting from headquarters. But I am concerned, and for the reason that Senator Padilla alluded to the degree that your resources are diverted to immigration operations against nonviolent immigrants, against farm workers or garment workers or restaurant workers, I am worried about diverting the focus away from interdicting fentanyl and going after these cartels. So let me ask you, how many field agents do you have in L.A.?
So approximately 200.
And of the 200 field agents in L.A., how many of them have, in the last 150 days, worked on immigration enforcement?
That's a tough question to answer, sir, just because it's such an ebb and flow. It's not like we have people permanently assigned to just work immigration enforcement. Because, as I said before, we're really primarily focused on continuing our work in drug enforcement, and the crossovers that fall into place with illegal immigration. I mean, that's where we
give us your best ballpark. Have a third of them been assigned at least temporarily, or half of them, or more? Is everyone participating to some degree?
I would say at any one time, that's a decent estimate. But again,
sorry, which estimate? About 30%.
At any one time, not necessarily at one time, but at any given time. There could be 5%, there could be 2%, there could be 30%. It just depends on what's going on that day and what type of support we can offer.
But give us some sense. I want to know what kind of call on your resources this is.
Well, I can actually give you a couple of good examples of things we've done recently.
I'm really not looking for examples. I'm looking for how much your workforce is being diverted to immigration enforcement and away from things that they were doing previously.
Well, specifically immigration enforcement only, that's not what we're focused on. It's just not, sir.
Okay, so how many of the 200 agents have worked in immigration enforcement?
At any given time, anybody could.
No, just overall. Have all 200 been called away at some point to work on immigration enforcement?
No, sir.
Okay. So how many have?
I really would have a hard time giving you an answer on that, sir.
You're running the office.
I am, yes.
And you're having to make decisions about allocating resources.
Yes, sir.
And you've got investigations to pursue that were ongoing at the time of the administration. And you're having to take agents off of one thing to put them on another. I know how strapped the resources were even before this administration. Yeah. So you may not want to be precise here, but we need some sense of what kind of resources are being diverted here. So what percentage of your agents would you say, what's your best estimate, what percentage have been called to do immigration enforcement? What percentage of the 200 have at some point in the last 150 days been called away to work on an immigration enforcement action?
So the reason I'm having a hard time answering the question is because we work immigration enforcement as it relates to narcotics enforcement. So the two are intimately combined, and that's what our agents are doing.
Okay.
For instance,
you know what I'm asking you. With all due respect, you know what I'm asking you. So, what percentage of your agents have been called away to work on immigration raids? That is a departure from what you were doing before 150 days ago.
Sir, my people do not do strictly immigration raids.
What percentage of your agents have worked on immigration enforcement in the last 150 days? Can you give me an estimate?
Again, it's not just immigration enforcement, sir. So
Okay. You clearly don't want to answer the question, Mr. Allen, and this is part of the problem, and that is we are devoting, by some estimates in the FBI, 45% of our agents in major cities, it's a public report, to immigration enforcement actions that are 90% of which going after nonviolent offenders. You're taking them away from somewhere. You're taking them away from somewhere. And you clearly don't want to tell us how much you're taking them away or how much work they're doing on this and what other enforcement actions, what other interdiction they might be pulled away from. But we need answers. Mr. Perez, are the estimates accurate that 45% of agents in major cities are being called on to work on immigration now? Is that accurate?
No, sir, I would say that's not entirely accurate. I think that maybe comes from some data that looked at
So what is the accurate percentage?
So nationally, sir, I don't have an exact percentage. I would say it's probably, it ebbs and flows. It could be between 5 to 10%. But again, that's been a temporary surge. We're realigning, we're surging now towards potential terrorism threats.
And the 5 to 10% that are being called away to work on immigration, what were they working on previously?
It varies, sir, by office. It depends. But we have a history in the FBI, sir, of surging resources towards terrorism or cyber attacks or cartels. So those are decisions made by our field offices to potentially pull someone off of an assignment. But I would say that's common, sir. In the 100-plus years in the FBI, we surge resources, we realign resources for potential threats.
Well, I don't think there's anything common about the scope of what you're being called upon to do with these immigration enforcement actions. But I know my time has expired, and I yield the mic to Senator Britt.
Thank you very much. On the note that
So in this recent hearing, we've got Democrat Senator Adam Schiff. You know, the same guy who spent years peddling the Russia hoax and dragging President Trump through sham investigations, now grilling federal law enforcement over how many agents are involved in immigration enforcement. Not drug enforcement, not cartels, not child trafficking. Nope. Schiff's concern? That we might be enforcing too much immigration law. You can't make this up. Now, let's break this down. Schiff starts off talking about the DEA, fentanyl, and cartels, which, yes, we all agree is a huge issue. But then, instead of doubling down on law enforcement support, what does he do? He pivots and starts attacking the agencies for supposedly focusing too much on immigration enforcement. He actually gets mad that agents are being used to help remove illegal immigrants, many of whom, by the way, are traffickers themselves or provide cover for those who are. He's upset that some of these people are nonviolent. Okay, so what? Since when did being nonviolent make breaking federal law acceptable? Try overstaying your visa in Canada or sneaking across the Mexican border. You think they'll be okay with that? Of course not. But somehow, when it comes to America, we're supposed to just look the other way. Here's the deal, folks. Schiff and his Democrat buddies don't want immigration laws enforced unless it's politically convenient. They're fine with millions crossing the border illegally. Why? Because it fits the agenda. It floods the labor market, it stresses local communities, and it creates future voters in deep blue cities once amnesty inevitably becomes their next big push. What Schiff is really mad about is that law enforcement is finally doing something to stop the chaos at the border. That agents are being reassigned, temporarily, to deal with an overwhelming invasion at our southern border. The agents being diverted, as Schiff keeps whining about, are doing what law enforcement has always done, responding to evolving threats. You think terrorism and cybercrime are the only dangers we face? What about the deadliest threat on our streets right now? Fentanyl pouring through cartel pipelines, often with help from illegal aliens and open border policies. Mr. Perez, credit where it's due, shuts Schiff down by saying that only about 5 to 10% of agents are currently redirected to help with immigration operations. And it's temporary. But Schiff doesn't want to hear that. He just keeps fishing for a number to use in the next MSNBC soundbite. This isn't about fentanyl. It's not even about law enforcement. It's about control. The left wants to discredit immigration enforcement entirely. They want ICE and the Border Patrol defunded. They want sanctuary cities to thrive while the rest of the country burns. And any agent who tries to uphold the law is painted as a villain. Schiff goes as far as saying that we're targeting farm workers, restaurant workers, garment workers. You mean people who are in this country illegally? That's the job, Senator. Enforce the law. We don't get to pick and choose who gets a free pass. If we don't speak up, if we don't demand our lawmakers support our agents, not shame them, this country is going to continue spiraling. We've got 100,000 plus Americans dying from fentanyl. Border towns are overrun. Hospitals and schools are stretched beyond capacity. And this guy wants to know how many agents are helping enforce the law on immigration. Look, patriots, this is why we need strong leadership. Leaders who back the badge, defend the border, and aren't afraid to say, illegal means illegal. It's not complicated. Schiff can't even get a straight answer because he doesn't want one. He wants a talking point. Support your agents. Support border security. And support leaders who will not bow to this globalist, lawless agenda. Thanks for tuning in. If you're sick of the lies and ready to fight for your country, hit that like button, share this video with your friends, and drop a comment below. Let me know, do you think our agents are doing the right thing by stepping up where the Biden administration has failed? Or do you think Schiff's got it right? I already know where I stand. For faith, family, and freedom, this is the Prodigy Unfiltered, signing off. God bless you, and God bless the United States of America.